Hey, nobody should watch this, but on the off chance that somebody's watching this, I was just watching Bill Maher. I just want to talk because I have nothing else to do, but you shouldn't watch this. I was just watching Bill Maher show, and Bill Maher was saying how like when basically he says that like it sucks that people have to like start over. He said like, man, like I would hate if I had a kid to have to start out with this kid who kind of like he's like, I learned so much in like all this time, I wouldn't necessarily want to start over. And so what am I saying? I feel like Bill Maher and all these like people, they should just have an episode where they just distill down like, here, I don't know, here's what I learned that I think could be useful to like younger people. So I'm just gonna say that. So I'm just gonna say like, I don't know, like what's so good about like if I was 45, if I'm 46 now, and I think you could basically just kind of download the useful shit from some older person. But here's my theory, and so basically like I'm gonna try to do that, but I'm just some loser 46-year-old. Who the hell wants to know what I have to say? But I don't know if you're watching this. I guess you want to know what I have to say. But I want to fact check what I'm saying with ChatGPT because I don't want to say anything that's wrong or not like a universal thing. And so I'm gonna say this shit, but I'm gonna have ChatGPT kind of check it once in a while. And so okay, so here, nobody should watch this, but I'm just going to try to. Now, I would really have to think about this a lot to be like, what's useful? What's actually useful for like a younger person to know? Hey, Gemini, I'm making a live stream video and I'm going to save this on YouTube. And I'm thinking like, hey, some young person might watch this. And I basically just want to make a short video saying like, I don't know, this is what I wish I knew when I was 20 something. I feel like I could like save some people some time or just be like, I don't know, like, you know, this is what I think could be useful for young people that they might sort of figure out. I could save them some time. But I want you to fact check it. And so when I say this stuff, can you sort of can I record it to you and then can you kind of like correct like if that's a universal thing or is that just me?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead and record it.
Okay, so actually one of the first things I would want to say as an older person to like a younger person is actually there's a lot of advantages to not knowing so much. Like Bill Maher, I was just like listening to Bill Maher, and Bill Maher makes it sound like he says like I'm 70, I've learned so many things in my life. I wouldn't want to start over as like a 20-year-old. But if I think about it, it actually seems like not knowing so much stuff is a real advantage because there's a lot of like things I wish I didn't know that make me kind of cynical. And I wonder just like if there's a lot of things that are helpful to not know, just to kind of charge blindly into stuff, just to be like enthusiastic and to sort of like go blindly into a lot of things that if you knew how much like work it would be, or if you knew what the odds were, or if you just knew the ultimate ending to stuff, you probably wouldn't even try to rally that much. And that's like a really horrible thing. But I feel like a lot of the blindness of youth and not knowing the future or just being able to put your head in the sand is kind of a big advantage. So first of all, I don't even think that like knowing everything a 70-year-old knows would all be good. I feel like if you were going to take a 70-year-old brain and put it in a 20-year-old, it could be just as much bad shit that could harm them as like good shit. And so you would have to kind of really got to basically filter out the useful, optimistic, good things from like the fatalist, like don't even try type things. Is that a fair statement? Like, is it fair to say that like, yeah, there's like a lot of things that like are good to not know that you kind of wish you could like not know as like a older person that's like nice when you're 20 something that you don't know as firmly.
The blindness of youth.
So is that true what I said universally, or is that just me?
Yes, that is a universal psychological and philosophical truth, not just your personal perspective.
Yeah, I feel like there's a real innocence in just not knowing shit. Like I feel like there's some kind of like like, oh God, like it's just this is a horrible thing. So what's the point? Actually, I changed my mind. Like I don't even think I should like say. Okay, so yeah, basically like an older person communicating what they think in terms of like life perspective down the road is actually possibly not even really good and possibly bad for like young people to listen to.
Nuanced
So is that true? Yes or no?
Yes.
So I shouldn't even do that. I should just stop that. So basically, like whenever I'm making these live stream videos, and I'll start my video by saying like, "Oh God, like I've never gotten old before, and I didn't realize it was like this." That's not good to like say to like young people. They should like just not look down the road so much, or think like, "Oh God," or should they? I don't know. Is it good for them to hear that?
The paradox of advice. Hearing, I've never gotten old before, and I didn't realize it was.
Anyway, you just tell me if any of these are like good to think or bad to think. I know that you only record so much data before cutting me off, and so I'm just gonna reel off some things that I think could be. This is what I've noticed that I could say to a 20-year-old, and then you tell me if some of these are harmful or just me and not even universal. Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind is like exercise is really good. Cardio definitely seems to make life better as long as you limit it to about 30 minutes. Heart rate monitor, if you can get your heart rate up to about 120 to 140, great antidepressant, makes your brain work better, makes you have more energy, makes everything more positive. Don't damage your body. Avoid permanent injury. That's really good. And just try not to get fat. Like avoid sugar, avoid fats. Pretty much almost every drug I've ever tried that's an illegal drug turns out to be like dark times. And so I try to say like avoid drugs. And then it seems like being true to yourself. Like basically like you have some natural strengths. It's probably best to like lean into those career wise. And just I don't know, like you can. It seems like you shouldn't waste a ton of time trying to fix your weaknesses because it doesn't seem like it goes as far as like investing in your strengths. And then just it does seem like the feeling and the enthusiasm starts to go away after 40 or something, and like you have a lot of good stuff. Just being in your 20s and 30s is like really wonderful just for the flavor and joy of life is kind of like a little bit more. But there's a flip side to that in that like things seem like a big deal so much, and then like when you're in your 40s, you might sort of notice like everything feels like a little less intense, including the feeling that like those dark, deep things are quite as big of a deal. What else? Just like there's lust and love and like they don't necessarily have anything to do with each other, but young people are going to try to profess that, and just people have to make babies, and that's probably largely a lust thing. And then the love thing is kind of nice, but like it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the baby making thing, and so that's weird. And so there's probably a certain amount of like lying that's necessary to make that happen. There's probably like some kind of thing where you have to find somebody who can give you a boner, but then say it has nothing to do with their ability to give you a boner. And if they no longer can give you a boner when you're much older, you'll still love them, and that's, you know, like that's just like what you sort of have to do. But if you find somebody who doesn't give you a boner and you say like I love you, that doesn't work because if you can't get a boner, and like and so that's just kind of how it is. Just like the right approach on approaching a woman probably has to do with a certain amount of like not saying the truth. If you were totally truthful, it probably wouldn't even work. Is that largely true so far, or is anything I'm saying like just me or not true or possibly harmful for young people to hear?
Exercise, cardio, and avoiding permanent injury, universal and highly beneficial.
Just tell me which of those are kind of like universally true, because I've never been another human, so I don't know like which of these are just me or which of them are kind of universal human things. Which of what I said is kind of like universal, and then which of it is just not even true. And then which of them is like good for young people to hear, which of them is like bad for people to hear. Exercise, avoid injury. Good.
1.
True.
Exercise.
So universal status. So exercise and injury. Psychological science confirms that moderate cardio, 120 to 140 brain-derived neurofactors, avoiding chronic joint injury is like universally good for your brain, good for your body. Okay, that's good. Leaning into strengths versus fixing weaknesses is true. Boy, did I learn that. It's like, don't like try to fix your weaknesses and expect them to get really great. It can mitigate weaknesses a little bit, but basically if you're naturally good at something, especially talented at something, you should like lean into that, because you can get really good at that. But if you try to fix weaknesses, you might find that like they don't really get that much better. That was my experience. I already said this somewhere. Emotional intensity in youth versus calm in later decades. True. That's like really fucked up. Good or bad to hear, good with nuance. It reassures young people that the overwhelming intensity of their current feeling will naturally stabilize over time, reducing panic. And just to appreciate, like, anyway, okay, what else? Avoiding drugs, true, good. I guess the toxic, the not true thing that I say is the love thing. That's where I'm like a little misguided, I guess. The mechanic of lust and love and relationships, universal status, not universally true. Largely personal cynicism and projection. While evolutionary biology does operate short-term mating drives from long-term attachment systems, framing romantic attraction strictly around physical mechanics, transactional dishonesty, and treating relationships as inherently deceptive is not a universal human truth. All right, so I was wrong about that. Healthy long term. Let's just say I don't get relationships. If I did, I would be in a relationship. Nobody should listen to relationship advice from somebody who can't get a spouse. Of course, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm not in. Anyway, healthy long term partnerships rely heavily on emotional safety, mutual respect, and genuine connection, not systemic lying. Okay, bad. So that's bad. That thing I said is just disregard that. That was wrong. So whatever I said about relationships, I'm wrong. You know, you don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm not fucking. That's another thing too. Is like, that's something I would want to say. Like when I was 20 something, I used to kind of like. I assume that somebody who was older. Actually, I don't even think I thought that. Is like actually, when I was 20 something, I was skeptical of like a lot of older people, and I think I was right to be that. I think like a lot of times, just because that person is older, and actually just because they're a teacher or in a position where they're disseminating information doesn't even necessarily mean that you should listen to them. I think that's actually particularly true. I might even go so far as to say that like it's important to know that like if you go to some paid institution like a school, any kind of class, that teacher, they don't really necessarily care if you get the right education. They care more about keeping their job. And ironically, that might involve like just teaching you something that they feel like teaching, that they have some kind of financial incentive to peddle you. Like you're better off kind of like taking your education into your own hands, because there's people who they'll let you pay them for years, and they'll handhold you right into like some bullshit. They'll be like, oh, thanks for your money, but we didn't really equip you with anything that will really help you in life because we don't need to. And meanwhile, like basically like you should sort of like try to learn on your own. And don't just put your faith blindly into some teacher, because they're not like your parent. They don't necessarily care. But at the same time, you don't want to blatantly ignore them, because that can really piss them off. And if they can put a dent in your future by giving you a bad grade, they might do that. So there's some kind of thing there where you want to smile and nod and act respectful, but don't just let the person handhold you, because like they don't really necessarily care if you are equipped with knowing stuff. And just in the day and age of the internet, you can learn so much more on the internet. Is that true, or is that And is that bad to say to young people? True, good, true, good.
1. Skepticism.
All right, I like this. I can like fact check my things. Yeah. Okay. So what's the point? That's something I noticed. But dude, nobody's watching this, right? But I'll tell you, like nobody's listening. But if I could talk to a younger version of myself, I'd say there's definitely like a few times in my life where there was a teacher who like I needed like a good grade from, like getting my blue belt. Like I didn't get my blue belt because the teacher's like, you don't respect me. I'm not going to give you a blue belt. Like a lot of just getting a blue belt would be like making the teacher like happy with you and seeming like you respect them, and I was just kind of like blatantly not doing what he said. That really pisses off teachers. So like that teacher, they might not give a shit about, they probably don't really care that much if you like get the best information, but boy, they sure care if you like blatantly disrespect them and don't do what they say. So there's a kind of like a thing where like I was really bad at that. It was like in my graduate class, I just blatantly ignored my teacher, and he just didn't give me my graduate degree. I blatantly ignored my teacher. He didn't give me a blue belt, but I did way better work. Like I did way better work than if I just listened to them. So what's your point? I got 2 gold medals, but like that's like a thing, is like I think the balance there is to like show respect and pretend that you're listening and do kind of what they say, but then also do like a bunch of shit from the internet also without them like knowing necessarily. Anyway, what's the point? I think that's the thing. What else? What else did I learn? I think that's basically it. I don't know. What else? That's it. That's all I fucking know. That's all I know for sure. I don't know. People know. Come on, Sean. Pretend you can save somebody a lot of fucking time. I don't know. I kind of feel like I don't know. I just have this weird feeling like eventually people die. Like everybody dies, and so like there's this later half of life where it seems good to have like kids and family, because somebody's got, like the human race, somebody's got to have some kids, and then just like it seems psychologically more healthy to like focus on your kid while you're falling apart. But whereas if you're just alone, it seems like, I don't know, it seems like it's a little more depressing because you're just constantly stuck with yourself, and you're sort of clearly getting worse. It seems like good to like focus on some new stuff, like new people, and it seems like I don't know, I have a feeling that just like maybe instead of just doing your art passion and becoming penniless or stuck in your parents' basement, if you just did like any stable job that could get you like a house and a wife and the kids and then raise a family, it could make for a better later half in life, and also just make for like kids. Like kids are, you'll enable the life of some new person, and that person will be like, hey, thanks, you created me and I'll outlive you. And so that seems like generally sort of a better thing than like sticking to your dream if it makes you penniless and childless. And so I wonder basically if you just got into any job that you could stand doing, and then if you just married any person that you could stand sleeping with for most of your life, and just be good to them, like stay true to them, stay true to the job as long as possible, stay true to the spouse as long as possible, and just try not to fight and try to like keep it together and be nice and make memories, overlook the small things and just try to like be grateful and just be like, let's just enjoy life. That could make for a better life than some kind of like isolated artist, penniless person. What do you think?
One. The value of family and shifting focus.
So those are true, good for people to hear. True, good for people to hear. Mixed. I like this. I can kind of figure out like, what's the data say? I don't know. Some of what I say is wrong. Marriage to work. So what's true? First of all, starving artist thing can be a trap. That's true. Shifting focus later in life. Universally true. Psychological and longitudinal studies such as Harvard's study on adult development consistently show that deep social connections family, and investing in others are the single greatest predictors of long-term well-being and happiness in later life. Yeah, it's like being part of some like the sun is rising thing rather than just like the sun is setting for like the later half. Shifting focus away from purely individual pursuits to nurturing the next generation helps buffer against isolation and existential decline. Yeah, I was just like, I didn't really think that when I was young. I just thought like, I could just, I can just kind of be about me forever. But the thing is, like, you don't like live forever. That's the problem. And like, you get those things get old. You get old, and so it's good to like have some new person to invest in. I would imagine. But then I guess your kids move out too. Anyway, it says it's good. Encourages young people to weigh long-term fulfillment and rational security over short-term self-absorption. That's what I think. I kind of wish I did that. Anyway, what's not true? Oh, first of all, what is true? True, practically speaking, the romanticizing the starving artist. So that can be kind of bad. Anyway, universal status mixed. Pragmatic wisdom with a cynical framing. The core underlying principle that long-term happiness relies on commitment, compromise, choosing a compatible partner, and sticking through hard things is universally true for successful marriages. However, framing a lifelong partnership as merely finding someone who you can stand sleeping with and a job that you can stand doing is heavily skewed by personal cynicism. All right. So it seems like seems like my evil, my sin is kind of lust. It seems like I have some kind of there's something in me where I'm really hung up on like hotness and physical beauty, and it seems like that's kind of like not healthy. Like if you can, it would be good to like overlook beauty and just base a relationship more on deeper things. Is that generally true? And also, is that true for in a spouse, and is that also just true for yourself? Like you should you basically like not be so hung up on your own looks and then the looks of your spouse for like a better life? Is that kind of my folly, my sin, my bad? True.
1. The role of physical beauty versus deeper connection in relationship.
Is it bad? It's not a sin. Being heavily drawn to physical beauty is a standard human wiring issue amplified by cultural conditioning, not a unique moral failing or evil. Recognizing that it is an unreliable anchor for a fulfilling life is a mark of maturity rather than a deep-seated personal flaw. So I guess it's good to sort of like... So I guess it's good to like not be so hung up on beauty, to try to like get over it and focus on more important, longer lasting things. First of all, is that true? But that being the case, isn't it kind of true that if you look good, it just makes for like a better life overall than looking like a puddle of shit? If you have like a double chin and like just you've kind of let yourself totally go to shit, it really kind of I don't know, it kind of makes the thing not good. Like I don't know, I feel like personally, what is your life? It's your senses, right? So you've got like how you and your life look, like how things look, which includes occasionally how you look, and then how your partner looks, and just like, and then you've got like how it sounds or how it tastes or how if it looks bad, or if it seems like if you could have it look good, that would be better. It's like a movie. Like if you just had a movie and the movie got all shitty, if you could avoid getting it shitty, that would be better. It seems like, yeah, the dialogue is good and yeah, the plot is good and stuff, but if you could avoid having it look all shitty over time, that seems preferable to like just having it look shitty. It's like, yeah, the plot and the deeper things, the characters and the story, yeah, that's more important, but just avoiding shittiness seems like kind of good if you can. It's hard to like a movie when it's all like shitty looking. Shouldn't the same apply to to humans in their like face and body and stuff. I don't know. I have some problem with that.
One. The distinction between health, vitality, and superficial beauty.
So it says the nuance. So true, yeah. Presentation. The flaw. The flaw in the movie analogy is that movies are designed purely to be looked at by an audience. Human lives are lived from the inside out. If you judge your entire life by its visual production value, you set yourself up for constant misery because the physical shell will weather over time, no matter what you do. Yeah, but dude, it can weather a lot less. I'm convinced. Like, tell me if that's true or not. I'm looking at Rick Springfield. Rick Springfield is 75, and he looks amazing. He looks like way better than most people in their 30s for sure. And like, there's like, I was looking at Yasmine Bleeth. Yasmine Bleeth is in her mid 50s. Carmen Electra is in her 50s. They both were Baywatch babes. Yasmine Bleeth, she looks like Jabba the Hutt. And Carmen Electra, she looks like kind of as beautiful as most 20-year-olds, more than most 20-year-olds. And so there's a lot you can do. Like just the working out and diet and exercise, it can be night and day in the later part of life. I don't believe that there's it will weather, but boy, it can weather a lot less in the case of Rick Springfield and Carmen Electra and a lot of other modern examples through diet, exercise, and various cosmetic little things you can do today with technology.
One. The power of maintenance versus genetic lifestyle.
Okay, so those are true, but the danger, well, exercise and diet can dramatically slow down the decline. Expecting everyone to look like an ageless 90s icon in their 70s sets an unrealistic standard that can breed intense frustration when the natural, normal aging inevitably happens. Yeah, but just like, better is better, and so like any amount of good is still more good, and so if you can make it more good but just kind of accept like, yeah, it's not going to be as good, that's a healthy thing to do versus just be like, whatever, just let it all fade. I think there's like, I don't know, I feel like there's some kind of toxic attitude that can happen in later life where people go like, it's inevitable, like, you know, you're eventually going to die no matter what, so let's just accelerate the process. It seems like that's kind of what you got your body, you got your, if you got like, everything is kind of your body in terms of like what you are, and so if you let that stuff go, that's you're kind of losing like what you are. If you can kind of keep it together but also enjoy your life, that seems preferable.
One. The value of agency in refusing premature surrender.
So it says those are true. Good to hear. Okay, anyway. Here's something I personally wonder that I don't really know the answer about. Is like, I wonder, like, can humans really change what rings their bell at some kind of deep level? Like, I feel like I never liked punk rock music. Some other of my friends, they really love punk rock music. I inherently love Nine Inch Nails, and I inherently love like Enya. Some people, they don't really like Enya. I feel like when I was in art school, there was this splatter paint, and there's kind of some kind of Emperor's New Clothes thing where people can say like, no, it's good, you should like this, it's better, and you can kind of go like, yeah, like I see it, like it's better, but you're kind of deluding yourself, and like, it doesn't seem like you can really totally change like what rings your bell at some kind of deep level. You can say you do, and you can sort of learn to love things a little, but really it's kind of like the shittiness is still kind of felt, and it seems like not really good to go against the grain too much. I mean, unless you're like a pedophile and you just love sex with children, you should try to go against the grain in that case. But in terms of if it really rings your bell to be physically like, to like how you look, I feel like, at least in my life, if I try to just listen to my dad or some person who says, you shouldn't care about that, you're like, oh, you're right, I shouldn't care about that, you tell me what to like, then like life kind of is awful. It's like trying to force a shoe that doesn't fit. It seems like it's better to sort of like try to like follow your muse and like uphold what you like and like ring your own bell rather than trying to ring a bell your dad likes or something like that. What do you think?
One. Can you change what rings your bell at a deep level?
So, true with minor exceptions to acquired taste. Psychological and neuroscience research confirms that the core aesthetic and emotional preferences, musical taste, artistic affinity, sensory affection, are deeply wired into our neural pathways and personality traits. While exposure can broaden our horizons, turning a mild dislike into an appreciation, you cannot fundamentally reprogram your innate wiring through sheer willpower. I don't know. It just seems like if somebody says, like, you shouldn't like that, and that's like, well, that's what I fucking really like. Like, I really love. I don't know. I just like looking. I like liking the way I look, and I really hate looking facially ugly. And I know other people, especially men, they don't seem to care. And I've tried that. I've tried to just have like a beard and just be like whatever. And then I'm just like, this is fucking awful. So which one? It says like, you know. So it seems like the healthy thing is to have any human. They're gonna have like a ton of different things they like, and some of them might fade inevitably. And so you can try. You can. It seems like you're gonna have your egg in like multiple baskets. But if you can like keep those baskets good, that's good. Versus like if some guy says you shouldn't like that basket, you should like this other basket that you don't like at all. That seems like a mistake. If you try to be like, yeah, I like that. I'm gonna learn to like that thing that I really hate, that you seem to think is good. That seems like a mistake. That seems like some kind of like Emperor's New Clothes thing. Like those other people, they like different things. Like it seems good to just accept that like different things ring different people's bell, but to try to pin what rings your bell on somebody else or vice versa seems like a mistake. That is that true? True. Okay.
One. Authenticity of taste versus forced.
Anyway, so which point? Anyway, that's pretty much it. Nobody's even fucking watching this. Yeah, I don't know. Like Bill Maher was just saying, like, man, you know, if I could just put the knowledge from my 70-year-old brain into my 20-year-old brain. But I feel like it wouldn't really be that hard. Like I've heard that from like a lot of older people. I guess like deep skill acquisition could be really hard to transfer. But I feel like the general sort of like the general wisdom that would actually be useful from like a 70-year-old to a 20-year-old, you could kind of sum up in like an hour. I feel like I will always wonder like why doesn't like Bill Maher or like Jocko or like any of these people that people are listening to, I feel like why don't they just kind of like, they should just make some video where they just say, I don't know, here's my secrets, like I don't know, this is what I wish I knew when I was 20. I feel like you could kind of summarize it in about 20 minutes. It seems like what you couldn't summarize is all the nuances and details. Like Bill Maher, he's crafted some kind of skills in comedy that would take books to explain that. But in terms of like the general sort of like here's what I wish I knew, like watch out for this, watch out for that, I feel like they could basically say that in like an hour. Is that true or is that not true? Overly simplistic?
One. The core rules of thumb.
Here's some other things. Doesn't seem like you can change your bone structure. If you've got like a skinny frame, you're gonna have that skinny frame. You can't change your bone size. I don't know, unless you get like a nose job or something like that. Doesn't seem like you can change your height. What else? it does seem like in general, um, there's some kind of competitive aspect to life. It seems like sometimes I think racism is fundamentally just people are gonna try to like get the upper hand in a lot of cases. And if you don't have some kind of thing that's aware of that, it can be a bad thing. Like you should know that like that person who's driving, if they're driving the car and you're the passenger, if you don't challenge that precedent, that driver is never gonna just kind of like tell you like, oh, you know, you should like go find some place where you can do the driving. That seems like a thing I wish I kind of knew when I was younger. It's just like you gotta you can't just kind of accept some kind of precedent with somebody where they're hogging all the stuff. If you get away from those people, you can kind of like be like, oh, like I can drive also. But there's a lot of things where somebody just sets some kind of precedent where they're like, I'm the driver, you're the passenger, or like I'm the cool guy, you're the dork and stuff, or I'm the this, I'm the that. And if you, they'll never tell you the thing that you want. It's good to sort of just kind of like recalibrate, get away from everybody sometimes, and just be like, what do I want, and how can I set up conditions where I can get to be the driver if I want to be the driver. It might involve like getting away from those people who are hogging that shit. That seems like a big life thing, is like just realize that those other people, they don't really necessarily care if you get to do your thing. And that can apply to your parents, that can apply to like, but at the same time, you don't want to get paranoid. You don't want to become some like asshole. Like I feel like I'm a little bit of too paranoid about that, or you can become some standoffish asshole where you're like, fuck you, you're not going to get the better of me, I know you just want to one up me, or define your bigness off of my comparative badness. But on this flip side of that, you really can benefit in like in jiu-jitsu. That's definitely a thing, is like there's a lot of people who don't really know that like they stand to lose if they just kind of like let you stand on them, and you just repeatedly do that. You can really benefit by regularly engaging with people who don't challenge your taking the lead. Like that's definitely true in jiu-jitsu, is like you can just find some people who are like, oh, you want to stand on me, that's fine, and you can just do that for years. It's like you can just do moves on them, and you never tell them, you know, you could like be the guy who stands on me, you just have to go find some other person. They'll never tell you that. That's like a thing that like I feel like there's humans, they should try to like know that, but also try not to be so paranoid that they don't socialize. What do you think?
One. Fixed physical limit.
It says those are all good. It says, yeah, you can't change your bone structure. Hogging rules, true. Sociological, and that's something I wish I knew for sure. Sociological and psychological dynamics show that people and groups often settle into rigid relationships roles. Just fucking like from childhood, is like there can be like younger brother, older brother, and younger brother goes, I guess he's the older brother guy, he gets to do the cool thing or something. And then all of a sudden the younger brother eventually goes to some college and he's like, wait a minute, I could have fucking done the thing. And then you're like, yeah, you could have done that the whole time, but the other guy, he was never gonna like tell you that. He was kind of like, I was happy to have this like lopsided relationship. And that's a very common thing that it seems like valuable to know. What else? It left unchallenged, these invisible precedents harden into permanent bottlenecks. The people rarely volunteer to step aside so you can shine. Stepping back to assess what you actually want is a crucial maturation step. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fucked up, but I almost feel like, I don't really know, but I almost feel like you could enjoy either side of that. You could benefit from knowing that on either side. Is like, basically, if you have some kind of unchecked precedent with some person who goes like, oh, like I'll get you there, I'm the older brother, you're the younger brother, don't worry, stick with me. That person may never give you the driver position, and they might be happy just kind of like standing on you or giving you the shit end of the stick for like years, and they could just be like, well, thanks, sucker, and like they're never going to tell you like, you know, you could do my role if you just got away from me. So that's like it's good to kind of like challenge like lopsided relationships, and don't assume that other person is just going to tell you that. So that's important. But also on the flip side of it, you could potentially benefit if you were a dastardly person who can take advantage of people. You could benefit by basically finding a bunch of people who let you have some kind of lopsided precedent where you are getting to kind of stand on them. And like that's a thing too, is like if you put out some ad on Craigslist and say, hey, I'm giving free internships, you want to work for me for free, you could find a bunch of people who are like, yeah, I'll just work for you for free all the time and I'll give you my labor and you don't have to give me anything. Cool. You could like find people like that. And a lot of relationships are like that. Male female relationships are like that. Just pairings of people can often be like that. So like you could kind of like, you could benefit from that understanding on the evil side, the predatory side, or on just the not being used by people side. Is that a fair statement, or is that a little too like low life paranoid?
One, the reality of asymmetrical power.
So good, but a caveat: understanding that asymmetry exists protects young people from being naive victims of lopsided relationships. Yeah, but you don't want to get like paranoid. Like I'm too paranoid. Like I have some kind of thing where like fuck you, you're not gonna get the better of me, and then I just don't have any friends. Like I don't know. It feels like, what am I trying to say? I feel like successful people, like I don't know, like Donald Trump or just any, when I hear like more successful people, it generally seems like they have some kind of thing about like, yeah, but there's like a give and take. Like you want to sort of be like, hey, I'll buy you dinner and stuff. It seems like you got to be willing to like give a little, and then see if they'll give to you also. But then if you're just constantly giving, then you got to be like, I got to go somewhere else. What's the point? I don't know. I feel like the smart people, the good, successful people, they would be more giving and more willing to get screwed over than I am. I'm a little too sensitive. What's going on? Anyway, I'm just ranting now. Nobody knows. Nobody's watching. True temptation to observation but exploitation. True, as a description of human behavior, recognizing that some people do exploit these imbalances for personal gain is an accurate observation of human behavior. However, framing it as a viable playbook for oneself, you could benefit by being dastardly person crosses from objective observation into hyper-cynical projection. What does that mean? Bad cautionary. While acknowledging that predators exist is protective, advising or framing exploitation as a smart lifestyle strategy can warp a young person's trust, isolate them, and lead them. So anyway, disregard that. But I just want to know, like, okay, so I shouldn't say that, but it's good to know that people could do that to you and to get away from that. But just doesn't it stand to reason that if people could do that to you, to their benefit and your detriment, doesn't it kind of just naturally stand to reason with a little thinking that like you could do it to others? Like, and I don't know, is it too much to say that basically like a lot of the nature of capitalism is that, like, basically a lot of arrangements that people come up in terms of like how much pay they get and stuff is basically that. It's basically like a lot of people are building their business model off of finding like people who get the shit end of the stick, and if those people found better deals, they might not even be able to uphold their business. Is that too much of a stretch? What's fine? I don't know. This is kind of stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't even get it. I don't even have a job. This is all bullshit. Now I'm getting into. Now I'm just saying bullshit. You should watch sources. Universally true. Good to hear. True.
One, the economic reality of labor.
Which what? I feel like. I don't know. Now I'm just fucking saying bullshit. I'm gonna shut the fuck up. Nobody's watching this anyway, right? Hey, a lot of people were watching. First stream. Where is the bag? Okay, now I'm just gonna read these comments. You suck at connecting with chat. You're way too geeked out. You're way too geeked out. Peace. Hey, I was talking like before. There's this thing where nobody will fucking like talk to me unless I start ranting. If I do a rant, I'll get a ton of fucking. I was waiting for somebody to talk to me for fucking like 2 hours and nobody was saying shit. That's like an isekai anime. You heard about those? I have not heard of isekai anime. On a scale of 1 to 10, gay, how gay are you? I've never jerked off to men, never gotten a boner from men. I've never even, like, there's nothing sexually arousing to me about men in terms of making a boner, so I guess 0. What? Get your eyes checked. I purposely don't have my contacts in because I've been wearing my contacts for a month straight, and it feels really nice. I feel like my eyes can breathe. But I have contacts. How long have you looked like that? I don't know. I don't know what that means. Gator tails all night. Where is the bag? First stream. No, I've been streaming for fucking 10 years. I've been live streaming in some form or another for basically like 10 years. It's kind of cool. Like, actually, it's not really cool. But I don't know. That's another hack. It's like, dude, if somebody's, I feel like this kind of thing is like, is it fair to say that, like, for one of the first times in human history, anybody in the modern world, if they have an internet connection, can kind of experience, like, they can never feel alone ever. Like, it used to be that, like, humans, they were stuck in some shack. Like, if you were some kind of like middle-aged asshole guy with no wife and no kids, you might just be crying in your cabin in the dark in like 200 years ago. But now anybody for free can just kind of like turn on a live stream and start talking for a while, and somebody after a certain amount of time will probably be listening to them. So that's kind of wonderful in a certain way. It's like there's kind of a good boon to humanity now, in that like anybody with an internet connection and a webcam can kind of, if they wanted to, kind of never feel totally alone if they just are streaming to enough platforms, which is kind of psychologically good, as long as you make a point to like mix in some human interaction with real people occasionally. What do you think? True,
1.
true.
The paradox of digital connection versus real isolation. Universal status. Universally true. The internet has fundamental.
Anyway, I guess that's all my tricks. That's all the things I've learned. Anything else, Sean? I gotta like not look at the chat. See, if I look at the chat, I'm all self-conscious. Come on, Sean, think. You're trying to save somebody a bunch of fucking time. I don't know. This is the best thing I can say. It's like, I don't know, like, if I think to myself, like how do I feel on a scale of 1 to 10? Usually, like 10 being like, I feel amazing. I feel like I'm in the gates of heaven, like cloud 9. And then if 0 is like, I feel terrible, like suicidal, depressed, terrible pain. Like the only time I ever felt like a 10 in terms of like sheer pleasure, like this is the most gratifying thing in the world, was putting my dick in the vagina of a woman I was really attracted to. And like after like not doing that for so long, I'm always kind of craving that. And so it seems like probably good to like try to do that as much as, like, it seems like good to try to find a partner that you can do that with when you're young enough to do it, because there seems to be like a window of time basically from like 18 to 35 to 40 when you can do that, and then it's significantly harder after that. And so, and also it just, that seems to be what makes it so we're all here. Like we're here because people did that, they had sex. And so that seems like kind of like a good thing to do. It's just real simple, sort of like, that seems like a real simple thing. It's like your life might be way more gratifying. It's just finding somebody that you can fall in love with and have kids with and have like a sex life with for most of your life, in the form of like a happy marriage where you're both like attracted to each other and you get along. That seems really good. And if you don't do that, you might sort of like be awkwardly manifesting your desire to connect. Like your sexuality might sort of manifest in some kind of weird ways. Like it seems good to like secure a partner and career, because for one thing, like you can have kids, and also like you might just kind of be craving it forever, and just you're gonna have to do some kind of weird like jerking off outlet thing. Like and then you're gonna waste like a ton of time like searching for it on dating sites and stuff, and so it just seems like probably good to like, and also if you just go get laid in your prime, like you might kind of have like the most gratifying experience in terms of like sheer pleasure that you ever have, and so like that can be like a good thing to like go do when you're in your 20s, because you might not be able to do it later, and so like, and it's good to have kids, and so it seems like it's not like some shallow thing, it's like what makes the world go round in terms of like more humans. So like in some kind of safe, not irresponsible, not raping, not making anybody pregnant, like responsible way, going out and trying to meet people of the opposite sex or whoever you're attracted to, and having consensual sexual relations can be like some of the best times of your life that you should go for when you're young. Is that good advice, or is that like bad for people to hear? True.
The
Good.
universal drive and reproductive reality.
That's, I'm just gonna end with that, and I'm always gonna say that. That's my main sort of message to anybody, is like, dude, if I can just say that for sure, is like, if I'm 46 now, and nobody I'm attracted to has wanted to sleep with me in like basically like 3 years, and it's just the options are getting worse and worse, which I can't stress that enough, is like, dude, if I could go back to being 20, I would tell that 20-year-old for the next like 10 to 15 years, just try to be attractive and get laid and try to confront the opposite sex and try to be fun, and just, I would say to the 20-year-old version of myself, I have to force yourself to basically try to stay in shape. Here, I'm gonna run this through. It's like, yeah, I feel like at 46, if I could talk to a 20-year-old version of myself, I would say like, like, it's good to have a career and stuff, but really you're gonna have like so much time to like sit around at a desk or like play video games or whatever when you're older, and you're only young once, and so like I would tell like a 20-year-old version of myself that like responsibly, like while maintaining your career or whatever, like the groundwork for your future, if you can like be sure to like kind of somewhat force yourself to make time to like try to be attractive, fit, and like try to like approach the opposite sex or whatever you're attracted to, and try to like have consensual, positive, romantic relations, kind of like until you find the one and get married. That could be like probably the most important thing you could do, which would be really good to do when you're young, because it might not be as doable when you're older, and you might have like a bunch of like the best experiences of your life, which could be great sexual encounters. Is that a good thing to say? Is that kind of somewhat universally true for humans, and is it good for young people to hear? True. Good. All right.
Universal truth.
All right. So that's it. That's all I want to say. I'm gonna save this video. So nobody's watching, but I was watching these. I was watching this Bill Maher thing, and this Bill Maher says like, dude, if I could just put the knowledge as a 70-year-old into like the young people, it'd save so much time. I feel like I always wonder like, why don't these guys do that? They could, it doesn't take. You could say like, in like an hour, you could say, I think with these guys in about an hour, they could say like, here's like what I wish I knew when I was 20, and there's probably some other things, but like that's kind of, I feel like you could say the main shit in like 30 minutes or an hour. But these guys never do that. Like I always think Joe Rogan, I would love a Joe Rogan podcast where Joe Rogan just says, here's my secrets, here's what I learned that I think is really useful. But then the skills of the craft, the nuance of like when to say the joke, how long to laugh, how long to wait before somebody like gets awkward to start a new joke. I'm sure there's a lot of nuances to his craft that would be like, it would take like a book, but the main like advice thing you could say in like a fucking hour. Anyway, I'm just some loser guy, so I don't know, don't take my stuff with a grain of salt, but that's what I wish I knew when I was 20, the most stuff. Okay. And then also just last thing I'll say is like, some of it is like different strokes for different folks. People seem to have like different priorities, and so there's probably like a bunch of other shit that is like more important for other people, and a bunch of shit I'm not saying. That's it. I don't know. There's a lot of other things, Anyway.